There are places that make people realize the value of life simply by existing there, and Greenland is such a land. Life is precious for the little things, the simple beauties that we often forget in the rush of life. But in this place known as the coldest population center of the Northern Hemisphere, every concept of life seems to be tested to the limit. In a world covered in ice and snow, where the wind cuts through the skin and darkness lasts for months, people are forced to learn to be grateful for the most obvious things: warmth, light, and each other's existence. Greenland, the giant island you've probably never heard of, is not just a land of ice, but also the clearest mirror reflecting the limits and endurance of humanity in the midst of majestic but cruel nature. The ice island and Danish culture. Greenland, a giant island at the end of the world, is covered in ice. At a staggering 2 million square kilometers, over 80% of its land is covered in ice, and the temperatures are cold enough to freeze the blood of its inhabitants. Greenland is located in the North Atlantic and is not a fully independent country. It is autonomous and affiliated with the Kingdom of Denmark. Greenlanders have strong Danish cultural influences. The country's capital and largest city is a settlement called Nuuk. Even though Nuuk is the capital, it only has a population of about 20,000. In all of Greenland, only about 60,000 people are trying to hang on and survive. The forgotten and mistaken history of the Vikings. Have you ever wondered how these people got to this ice-covered island, which had no connection with the mainland? About 1,200 years ago, Norwegian and Icelandic sailors discovered Greenland. Before that, Europeans had never heard of it. Despite the extreme cold, they believed that the island could become a refuge in case of need and later a trading post. Norwegian and Danish sailors brought many people to Greenland. Even at that time, the population of Greenland had reached 2,000 people. Commercial settlements began to be established. The Scandinavians tried to develop trade and agriculture, but in the long run, they could not succeed. The mystery of failure. Contrary to popular belief, the main reason why life did not become permanent and the population did not increase in Greenland was not because of the cold weather. The animals that the Vikings brought to Greenland died out due to drought. The soil structure in Greenland was so barren that farmers could not grow green grass or fruit trees, no matter how hard they tried. The inability to cultivate because of drought forced the Scandinavians to migrate back, leaving only a few people to stay for trade purposes. What makes life in Greenland so interesting is the settlement of the Inuit, also known as Eskimos. They walked to Greenland thousands of years ago during the Ice Age. They did not discover the land like Scandinavian sailors. In ancient times, when Greenland was not yet an island, there was a land bridge, and the Inuit people chose to live here. Today, the few people living in Greenland are descendants of Scandinavians who came for trade hundreds of years ago, and descendants of Inuit from thousands of years before that. The name Greenland and the decision to leave the European Union. Scandinavians came here in the summer and found the area mostly green at that time. They later named it Greenland, because of its green color. Today, foreigners still call it by that name. In the 20th century, Greenland enjoyed privileges from the European Union, EU, but in 1985 they chose to leave the EU through a public vote. The reason was because the EU restricted the Greenlanders' main source of livelihood. They exported fish to the world. The EU interfered with Greenland's fish stocks and was also attracted by the country's possession of 35% of the world's uranium and iron reserves. In a way, EU countries would continue to exploit Greenland through membership. So Greenland chose to leave and go its own way. Life. Thanks to Denmark and the hunger for resources. Today, they are still accountable to Denmark, but they make many of the big decisions themselves. However, survival without Denmark seems impossible. Denmark spends nearly $1 billion a year to sustain life in Greenland. Greenland is occasionally mentioned by China, Russia, and the United States. This is because there are tons of uranium and iron waiting to be mined beneath the island. Having the world's largest fish stocks is also a big advantage. Unique land regulations. In Greenland today, if one wants to get an education or health care in Denmark, the Danish government will pay for it. Furthermore, you do not have the opportunity to buy land in Greenland. An individual cannot own land here. If someone wants to build a house or a shop in an area, they can ask the state for permission, pay taxes, and use that area for their own living. Most of the houses built in the capital Nuuk are government-sponsored projects, and most of the houses are colorful. You can buy these houses with an average price of about $350,000. Happiness on the cold ice. Greenland, the land of ice as hard as rock, is not a place for everyone. But for those who dare to set foot here and open their hearts, they will discover countless wonders hidden behind the cold, white ice. On a land that seems to be covered in snow, life still stirs silently. Small patches of green still rise among the vast ice, and the air here is so fresh that you can hardly believe that there is still a place in the world that is not polluted by factory smoke or car exhaust. What surprises people most is not just the scenery, but the people. The always radiant faces, the gentle smiles that radiate from simple happiness. In Greenland, people live in harmony with nature, in the world of polar bears, seals, and whales. They know each other, trust each other, and do not hate each other. They are not caught up in the political vortex, nor do they see nature as an enemy that needs to be subdued. They cherish every living being, share every little joy, and coexist in what seems to be the harshest land on the planet. The Eskimos and the Scandinavians, the real owners of this place, are united in a community that is as close as flesh and blood. And perhaps it is this solidarity that makes Greenland one of the very few places in the world where you can find no trace of evil. Family spirit and the fear of nature. Being a family is the most essential element for survival. Hardly anyone lives alone in Greenland, because life here is impossible alone. People must keep their families together to survive, because their only goal is to withstand the cold and survive. Their biggest fear is the melting ice and the disappearance of the surrounding glaciers. Indeed, the melting glaciers not only bring their end, but also prepare for our end. Rising global sea levels certainly evoke doomsday scenarios for the land masses. Moreover, they are not immune to disaster. Sometimes, unexpected tsunamis from the sea can sweep away the boats of Greenland sailors. They must understand the language of nature and keep their eyes open. They can be swept into the icy sea with their boats if they make a small mistake, because the ocean does not joke. Isolation and deprivation. Even the capital Nuuk, the heart of Greenland, cannot escape the severe lack of entertainment, healthcare, and transportation. Worse, if there is no service here, you cannot expect quick support from other countries, because Greenland is an isolated island, completely cut off from the billions of people out there. When you set foot here, you will feel like you have found a settlement on the moon, a strange world, quiet, and seemingly untethered from Earth. That is why Greenland has become a difficult land to access, where amenities are scarce and life moves at an unusually slow pace. But what makes this place special is not only the geography, but also the way people live. With a small population, marriage in Greenland becomes a real problem. Finding a spouse is so difficult that those who cannot marry are required to apply to the local administrator for help. Even if a person loses a spouse, they are encouraged to remarry and have children to prevent the population from declining. In some communities, a woman may have more than one husband, a rare but accepted custom for survival. In Greenland, procreation is not just a right, but a duty, because as the population grows smaller, each life becomes more precious than ever. The problem of waste and expensive internet. Greenland faces another problem, a complete lack of infrastructure. So, huge landfills have been built in uninhabited areas, where all of the human waste is sent for disposal. Greenland may not turn into a landfill in the short term, but in the long term, these landfills will surely swell and scar the frozen landscape. This is not only an environmental challenge, but also a warning about the isolation of the country on the edge of the world. In most areas, people have no access to internet service at all. Only the capital Nuuk has internet, but the price of that connection is 1,300 Danish kroner, a price so high that most people cannot afford it. Worse, the internet speed here is so slow that it feels like you are sending signals through the ancient ice sheets of the Arctic. Husky wolf traffic. In a land covered in ice all year round, the question arises, how do people move on this coldest island in the world? When you set foot in Greenland, you will realize that motorbikes and cars are almost non-existent. Only in the capital Nuuk, people can see a few cars moving slowly in the cold wind. In rural areas, transportation mainly depends on snowmobiles, a means of life and survival. In the harsh winter, when temperatures can drop to -50 degrees Celsius, all types of motor vehicles are powerless. Engines cannot start, engine oil freezes, and metal becomes brittle as glass. In such circumstances, people are forced to rely on wild friends, Siberian wolves called huskies. They are tied to snowmobiles, pulling people and goods through the endless white snow. If someone in the village needed urgent medical attention, the only way to get there was by helicopter, as there was no other means of transportation in the icy cold. In a village of 4,000 people, the number of huskies could reach over 3,000, a ratio that shows the deep bond between humans and this animal. They were not only a means of transportation, but also companions on hunting trips in the snowstorms. But don't let their wild beauty fool you. Raised on raw meat, these wolves are ferocious and absolutely loyal to their owners. If left to starve, they can gather in packs and attack humans. So, there is a strange relationship between humans and wolves in Greenland. Not love, but an exchange for coexistence. A cold contract between survival and instinct, where both sides understand that if one side breaks that boundary, life will end. Hunting, more than a livelihood. Apart from the cold. Perhaps to many people this seems cruel and inhumane. Perhaps this is how they are pushing animals to the brink of extinction. But no country will feed and care for a person who has a house here for free. So they have to survive and hunt on their own. Those who do not have boats try to break the ice on the frozen rivers and fish by themselves. If they fail, they will starve. They have to use cutting sticks to dig under the ice. This requires muscle strength. When they reach the water, they dip their homemade nets and wait. Most of the time, they achieve their goals and return home. Polar bear head, a gift worth more than gold. In Greenland, the sea is not only a source of life, it is also a giant table that nourishes the entire nation. Greenlanders literally eat everything that comes from the sea. In snow-covered houses, you can find sealfish being cooked in the kitchen, or even a polar bear head placed prominently in a restaurant, a symbol of honor and power. Gold and silver are not precious in this land, and people do not exchange money at weddings. Instead, a polar bear head is the most cherished gift, reserved for those who truly deserve it. Hunting polar bears is arduous work, requiring courage, skill, and even recklessness. Bear meat is not easy to obtain, and when it appears on restaurant menus, it becomes the most expensive dish, more precious than gold. If you were invited to a Greenland family's home, you would most likely be treated to whale meat, a delicacy that is both exotic and sacred to them. Greenlanders eat everything except the human heart. During meals, they always hold a sharp knife in their hand, separating each piece of meat from the bone and swallowing it whole, a habit that has been ingrained in Eskimo culture for generations. Scandinavian families living here, and on the other hand, bring with them an elegant culinary style, influenced by their distant homeland of Denmark. Two cultures, one wild, one refined, coexist in the cold land, creating a Greenlandic identity that is both harsh and proud. Aurora borealis and living in isolation. Greenland is so large and so small that you're glad to see other people. Along with the capital Nuuk, there are 6 settlements, and only about 300 people live in one of them. The only services these 300 people have access to are a grocery store and a church. A chronically ill person living here, for example, probably won't live very long. And how long can you endure this kind of life? No cars, no flowers, no insects, no cell phones, no entertainment centers. Just isolated wilderness and a vast sea covered in ice in the winter. Sometimes the sun doesn't rise at all, and your days are mostly darkness. Some days there are blizzards, and if you're outside, there's nowhere to run. People trapped in the blizzard suffer serious illnesses and may not be able to stand up for months. The most privileged thing about their geography is that they can watch the dance of the northern lights to their heart's content. The war for clean water and ancient language. In short, Greenlanders live in conditions that are hard to imagine in the modern world. In a land of mostly ice and wind, finding a little clean water is a luxury, almost a blessing. They can't bathe or drink seawater, and their pipes are often frozen solid. So the government has to ship clean water to each area, most likely from Denmark. Life is harsh, but Greenlanders find joy in simple things. They skate on sleds, play with their loyal huskies, and dance in the thick white snow. The language they speak is Kalaallisut, the ancient language of their ancestors, a thread that has existed for thousands of years as a link between the past and the present. Of course, the Danes who live here don't speak it, so they communicate only in their own language. Between two worlds, a wild native land and a civilized Europe, the Greenlanders still maintain their own identity, rustic but resilient like the icy land they call home. Every trip has an end, so our exploration trip ends here. If you want to continue exploring countries like Russia, Uzbekistan, Bhutan, or small countries in Southeast Asia like Vietnam, Philippines, Laos, Thailand, please visit our channel to learn interesting things in other countries. Because videos with many likes are always prioritized. If you find this video interesting, please like, leave a comment, and share them with your loved ones so that our channel can grow, and from there will be the motivation for us to create more interesting and attractive videos about countries. Now goodbye, and see you again in the next videos. Sincerely thank you, and see you again.